Hello everyone and welcome to Education Plus. Today we are going to discuss Thorndike's trial and error theory from the subject Learning and Teaching for B.Ed course. Now if you are totally new to this channel, then this is the 6th video on the subject Learning and Teaching that I have uploaded. To refer to the previous 5 videos, you may go to the playlist section of this channel and choose the videos accordingly. So let's get started in understanding today's topic, that is Thorndike's trial and error theory. First, we need to know the experiment that Thorndike performed to explain the trial and error theory. So what was the experiment? Let's go through it. Once he, Edward Lee Thorndike, locked a hungry cat in a puzzle box and showed a slice of meat outside. The ultimate aim of the hungry cat was to obtain the meat. The cat could come outside only when it opens the door by removing the latch, but it was unaware as how to remove the latch. The cat did not know how to remove the latch at first, but was involved in random activities like scratching the box, trying to bend the bars, and stretching the feet outside. At last, in its random activities, it lifted up the latch and obtained the meat. He repeated the experiments and found that the cat released the latch itself easily. It realized association between lifting the latch and opening the door. The random activities are called errors. Finally, he concludes that the number of trials will reduce the wrong responses and finally correct response is found. Hence, the bond is established between stimulus and correct response through the elimination of response. So this was the experiment that Thorndike performed, and the result or the consequences of the experiment led to the trial and error theory. So in this experiment, Thorndike locked a cat inside a puzzle box, which could be opened by lifting up the latch, and he kept a slice of meat outside that would actually be a stimulus. And in response to that, the cat performed random activities like scratching the box, trying to bend the bars, stretching the feet outside. These were activities meant to help the cat to come outside the box. Cat did not know what was actually the correct response. However, after several attempts, the cat finally lifted up the latch and could come outside. And that was when cat realized that by lifting up the latch, it could come outside. Now, when this experiment was repeated several times, what happened was there was very less number of wrong attempts. And finally, after many more times, it was very easy for the cat to realize that by lifting up the latch, it could come outside easily and obtain the meat. So, repeated experiments reduced the number of trial and error, and the repetition also led to the establishment of a strong bond between stimulus and correct response through the elimination of wrong response. So this was Thorndike's trial and error theory experiment. Now we need to see what are the educational implications of this trial and error theory. Further, there are many laws that Thorndike could frame based on this theory. So we will see those next. Before that, let's see a rough diagram. So this is the puzzle box, this is the cat, here you have it. This is the door that the cat needs to open, and here you have cat food. In the experiment, it's mentioned a slice of meat. So I have kept here cat food instead of slice of meat so that it becomes more clear for understanding. So next we move forward to understand the laws of learning that Thorndike could frame based on the experiment he performed. So trial and error theory has 3 laws, and those 3 laws are law of readiness, law of effect, and law of exercise. Now let's see each one of them specifically and separately. First we have law of readiness. So the first law that Thorndike framed from the experiment that becomes a part of trial and error theory is the law of readiness. And this law refers that learning takes place only when the learner is ready to learn. If a learner has to learn an action or activity, he should be mentally and physically fit for the action he desired. His mental set should have the capacity to do the work. A 2-year boy cannot be admitted to the school since he is not mature enough. A child of 1 year cannot speak since his vocal cords, larynx, is not grown enough. Hence, child interest and maturity is essential. So this law states that, first of all, the state of readiness is most crucial for entering the stage of learning or to learn something. The next law, the law of effect. This law states that learning takes place properly when it results in satisfaction and the learner derives pleasure out of it. In the situation when the child meets failure or is dissatisfied, the progress on the path of learning is blocked. All the pleasant experiences have lasting influences and are remembered for a long time, while the unpleasant ones are soon forgotten. Therefore, the satisfaction or dissatisfaction, pleasure or displeasure obtained as a result of some learning ensure the degree of effectiveness of that learning. This law emphasizes the role of rewards and punishments in the process of learning. Getting rewards as a result of some learning motivate and encourage the child to proceed on the same path with more intensity and enthusiasm, while the punishment of any sort discourages him and create distaste and repulsion towards that learning. So this law states that if a child has pleasant experiences, wonderful experiences learning something, then the process of learning becomes more efficient and the learning becomes more effective. Also, it implies that rewards and praises makes student more confident in any subject or in any learning, whereas punishment and criticism makes student lose confidence and create distaste and repulsion towards subject or learning. So this is the second law. And lastly, we have the third law, that is laws of exercise. This law states that practice makes a man perfect. The bond of strength and response will get strengthened if it is repeated. This law of exercise has been categorized as follows. So this third law has two categories. The first one is law of use and the second one is law of disuse. So law of use: when a modifiable connection is made between a situation and responses, that connection's strength and things being equal gets increased. Whereas law of disuse states that when a modifiable connection is not made, when the connection is very rigid between a situation and response, during a length of time that connection gets decreased or the strength of that connection gets decreased. Thus, the law of use refers to the strengthening of connection with practice, while the law of disuse refers to the weakening of connection or forgetting when the practice is discontinued. So more the practice, better the connection between the response and the situation. So this is the law of exercise, which can simply be understood by the phrase practice makes a man perfect. So this completes the first three laws of Thorndike's trial and error theory. So let's see educational implications of Thorndike's trial and error theory now. So the first implication: this theory substantiated that readiness is preparation for action, which is very essential for learning. If the child is ready to learn, he learns more quickly, effectively, and with greater stratification than if he is not ready to learn. He wants us not to make the child learn till he is ready to learn, and also not to miss any opportunity of providing learning experiences if the child is already prepared to learn. So this is the first educational implication, where it talks about the readiness of the child to learn. The law of effect emphasizes the role of rewards and punishment in the process of learning. Getting a reward as a result of some learning motivates and encourages the child to proceed on the same path with more intensity and enthusiasm, while the punishment of any sort discourages him and creates distaste and distraction towards that learning. So this was what we exactly learned in the previous slide, where we discussed the law of effect, and that becomes an educational implication as well. The next we have the remaining three implications. The third one: in the teaching learning process, the teacher tries to strengthen the bonds and connection between the stimuli and the responses, those things which are to be remembered by the learners. This could be done through drill, repetition, and rewards. So this is the third implication that Thorndike suggested based on the trial and error theory and the three laws that it constitutes. The fourth one: repetitions in learning strengthen the connections in achieving the goal, which could be achieved by rewarding the correct responses. And the fifth implication is the child should be encouraged to do his work independently by strengthening effects of rewards rather than weakening effect of punishment. So here the fifth implication that his theory suggests is that we should keep in our mind that we can motivate students using various methods, and we should use that to encourage the student to learn to work independently, to put efforts out of own interest. That becomes a very important tool in learning. So these are the 5 implications Once again, I would like to tell you all that these 5 implications are very simple to understand, are all in simple words. Also, I would like to suggest you all to make notes of this in your own words. That way, it will be more easy for you to study, to remember, because these are simple topics, and once you write it down in your own words, it'll be there in your mind forever. And that's how it'll be easier for you all when it comes to examination. So, with this, we complete our study of Thorndike's trial and error theory, where we learned what was the experiment that Thorndike performed, what is trial and error theory, the 3 laws that it constitutes, and then we looked at the educational implications of Thorndike's trial and error theory. And with this, we complete our video. Thank you.